Hey Spuds, how's it going? It's Jamie, welcome back to another video. I don't know if you can hear that ice cream truck in the background. It's relatively annoying. Anyway, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be looking into the phenomenon, the concept, the false belief that kids are being transed. That the trans agenda is transing the kids. It's something I've seen popping up here, there, and everywhere, and I just feel like every transphobe is now trying to claim that kids are being forced into transitioning, except they don't say it like that. They say transed. Firstly, I find it hilarious that for this made-up concern, they're also using a word that is not a word, or words, because it's transed or transing. They're not real. They're not words. They're fake words used to describe a fake thing. This notion that trans people or gender clinics or some other thing is forcing kids into being trans is a conspiracy theory. It's driven by the idea of a transgender agenda, a craze, and some even go so far to blame Big Pharma for forcing kids to transition so they can profit off of it. Have you seen the state of trans healthcare? Nobody's making a penny off of that shit show. But this theory around there being some ulterior motive in forcing people, particularly kids, into transitioning is really fueled by what's going on at the minute around trans rights and transphobes and what they're saying. We've seen books from people like Abigail Schreier, Irreversible Damage, the transgender trend seducing our daughters. I don't know if you've seen the front cover of that book before, but it is pretty horrendous. And then we also have J.K. Rowling's wonderful transphobic essay that's caused a lot of transphobes in the UK to get significantly louder. But in that essay, Rowling even alludes to the possibility that she may have transitioned in the 80s had there been a realistic opportunity to. I mean, plenty of people did. It was a lot less heard of, and there was a lot less acceptance, but people did transition in the 80s. And then there's also research, like the research by Lisa Littman on rapid onset gender dysphoria, the term that she coined and the term that is not real or recognised at all by any medical professionals. And that is something that has caused genuine, irreversible damage to the trans community. Pretty much every TERF, transphobic, gender critical, whatever you want to call it, argument nowadays circles back to rapid onset gender dysphoria, and it's just used so much. When transphobes say science doesn't support trans people, pretty much every single time they say that, they're talking about this paper from Littman on rapid onset gender dysphoria. I could go on about it. I have a whole video planned to talk about rapid onset gender dysphoria and how it's been debunked. We'll go into that another day. But anyway, the combination of all of these influences, research, books, once loved famous children's authors turning transphobic, and more, has really led to this spike in people claiming that kids are being forced into transing. Yeah. You do see it in other countries as well, like the States, but like it feels like something that's very loudly said in the UK at the minute. I'm hearing it a lot, which is why I wanted to talk about it. Something I also want to mention fairly early on, I don't even know if this is early on in the video, I feel like I've been rambling, but something that is really important to mention is that alongside these arguments of like kids are being forced to transition and transphobic people, they're also trying to claim that these kids that are being forced to transition are being forced onto hormones and / or having trans-related surgeries, which is just not the case. Because when we talk about kids transitioning, 90% of this is them being seen at a gender clinic, being seen by specialists and professionals, and socially transitioning. So no medical intervention, just being allowed to live in the way that the kid is comfortable living. And maybe some kids will be lucky enough to have access to puberty blockers, which are completely reversible, early enough where they're actually going to make a difference. There's a very small window where puberty blockers will actually have an impact, and that's like the most that kids will actually have access to. I don't know if it's a genuine belief or a fear-mongering thing when people say that kids are taking hormones and having surgeries. I highly suspect it's probably a combination of the two, but hormones will start at the earliest, age 16, and surgeries are 18 plus, just for clarity. But the way some people have been expressing their transphobic views is through protests. And so what I've done is I found some images of these protests, which are typically very small, and I've picked out a select few of my favourite slogans for you, and I thought we could go through them. Children need love, not puberty blockers. Yes, instead of going to a medical professional for your recognised medical condition and getting treatment for that, which will greatly improve your life, just get some love and you'll be fine. That was a bit ironic. Who profits from transing our kids? This is the Big Pharma making money conspiracy theory. But also transing on a protest sign. Beautiful. I was half expecting to see the red squiggly line under the word, because whenever I write it, my computer tells me it's not real. But yeah, who does profit from kids transitioning? Oh yeah, the kid. And also who profits from adults transitioning? The person transitioning, that's who profits off of it, because transitioning greatly improves well-being of kids and adults alike. Self-love, not surgery. As we've already covered, kids are not having surgery, so I'm just going to assume that this is about trans adults. Trans surgeries and transitioning overall improve well-being. End of. Like, let people live their lives. If you don't like it, you don't have to do it, but you shouldn't stop other people from doing it. Do they really think they're going to make people change their minds? Oh yeah, that surgery that I had planned that was going to greatly improve my well-being and potentially be life-saving for me. Yeah, I don't need that anymore. So why not? Oh, well, somebody outside the hospital was holding a sign up telling me to love myself, and I'm all good now. Yeah. Stop transing our kids. Wrong. It's frustrating, but it's transing. It doesn't even sound right. They really think they're doing something. Gender clinics equal permanent harm to children. Well, with how long the wait lists are currently, potentially, yeah. There is only a very, very small window where puberty blockers have any kind of impact on people, and also having to wait years and years for access to treatment and help can really negatively affect people. Most gender clinics have wait lists that are too long for kids in the UK to even have access to puberty blockers, because by the time they get seen, they're not kids anymore, basically. So thank you for speaking up about the overstretched and underfunded state of healthcare in the UK for trans people. Stop transing gay kids. Oh. Okay, this is a thing. This is a thing that people say. This is the idea that transitioning and being trans and trans people are inherently homophobic. And bear in mind, people believe that this is happening in places like the UK and the US. There is the belief that parents will force their kids into transitioning to stop them from being gay, and also that trans people themselves will transition so that they are not gay. But firstly, being trans is still significantly less acceptable in a majority of places than being gay is. And secondly, it does not explain trans people who are not straight, like after they come out as trans. Who is Keira Bell? Oh, how could I forget Keira Bell on my list of negative influences on this situation? Oh, okay. She plays a big role, actually. So, who is Keira Bell? Keira Bell is a detransitioner. In of itself, no problem. Nothing wrong with detransitioners. Detransitioners deserve respect and acknowledgement and support, everything like that. Detransitioners make up a very, very tiny percent, as in like under 1% of the total number of people who transition, and the main reason for detransitioning is actually an unsafe environment, which many of these people later go on to transition later when they're in a better place to transition. What I'm trying to say is just being a detransitioner doesn't automatically mean bad. The problem with Keira Bell is she's a detransitioner who then sued the NHS and the gender clinic who treated her as an older teen and adult, and she also managed to get a court ruling that prevented under 16s from accessing trans healthcare in the UK. I believe that's now been overturned. And she also advocates for trans conversion therapy. She's literally going after trans kids and preventing them from accessing healthcare and wanting conversion therapy when she didn't even transition at the age at which she's trying to prevent access for. Like, she wasn't under 16. She was a full-on 20-year-old when she had top surgery and 17 when she started testosterone. That's not a child transitioning. I'm sorry it wasn't right for her, but you can't blame it on the clinics. You can't penalise and go after other trans people. It's not fair. It's not their fault. So yeah, those were just some of the slogans I'd seen and I wanted to talk about them. We've had these protests, we've had these books, we've had once loved authors, detransitioners, all coming out with unfounded attacks on trans youth in particular, but often trans people in general, for things that don't even happen, based on science that isn't even real. And then we also have the people who are saying that if they were a kid now, they're sure they would have been transed, because I don't know, they used to play with dinosaurs. No, that's a legitimate thing I saw, I didn't just make that up. There are now also entire websites dedicated to this movement, I don't even know what it's called, of stopping trans kids accessing healthcare and being able to transition. There's petitions against it as well. As we saw, protests and books, you name it, someone has used that medium to try and stop trans kids from transitioning. I would not be surprised if one day there's a hot air balloon or skywriting occurring, and it's all based on lies. Rapid onset gender dysphoria isn't real. Kids don't start hormones or have surgery. Very few even start puberty blockers because of the state of trans healthcare. No one profits monetarily off of trans kids transitioning. The only profit to be had is the well-being of trans people. And there are so many thorough assessments of trans people, and trans kids get even more scrutiny in their assessments before they can even access any kind of treatment. And people are just believing that a 10-year-old will walk into a gender clinic and then walk out with testosterone the same day. It doesn't work like that. Not at all. So yeah, this is just something I wanted to talk about because I find it, if it wasn't so damaging, I would find it a hilarious conspiracy theory that people are just like, stop transing our kids. But yeah, that's it for today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Think about giving it a thumbs up and subscribing if you liked it, but no pressure if you didn't or you don't want to. And yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Much love. Bye.